Again, just waiting for it to catch up. Give it a minute.
Give it a minute.
We never know exactly how long it takes for it to actually start rolling because our computer is slow, but
It's a little laggy.
a little laggy. Yeah. There. I'm assuming we are live now.
Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. Melinda's Enchanted Cottage, Witches Social. Another day, another dynamic topic for you guys. We're pretty excited. This one's, in some ways, it's low key because we don't have, I mean, as much as I have a structure and a plan for this, it's, okay, Melinda's in the hot seat today. So
I'm like, I have no idea
you
what
don't know what we're doing?
I know we
talked about it,
chatted today.
But I'm
Yeah.
kind of taking the reins and letting people kind of know your story. There is a specific agenda here.
Okay.
And it really does come down to action. If we're looking at applying wisdom and knowledge, the third component of this is action. And what we are doing is we are calling. She's Alana's in the car listening. Welcome, Alana.
She told me that. She's like, I'm on the way to Melinda's Enchanted Cottage. I'm gonna listen to you in the car.
Okay, so Alana, let me give you a little tip there. If you'd like, you can log into our Wi-Fi and save on your data. You can join there.
She's not out front.
Oh, she's in the car listening on the way.
She's in the car driving.
That makes sense.
Here,
Well,
so
then I
she
won't give you the
can't-
Wi-Fi.
No.
Okay.
Don't do that.
We have Holly saying hello, happy Saturn's Day.
Yeah.
And Charmaine's on again.
And Lynn's
hi,
here.
Mama.
Hi.
How's it going? Yep. No, that's awesome. So today what we're specifically exploring is why are you waiting and what are you waiting for? And that's why I feel like your story is going to be beneficial to people. And you're like, I don't quite know. But there is
Sure.
a plan. There's
Yeah.
a method to my madness.
We got this.
We got
We
this.
got this. So-
Stephanie says hello. And I am going to
Hi
put
there.
up Belinda's phone number here.
Yep.
If I can. Where is my option to type? Rebecca, hey.
Hey. So while
226.
Jeremy's typing there, just keep in mind this is a Witches Social
931.
1419.
Yes, 1419.
Hey Kelly. Hey Amy. Yeah, so this is our Witches Social, something we used to do a little while ago, but we met in person at the shop. And it's just an open forum for people to talk, share thoughts, share their inspirations, their journeys. We usually pick a topic each day, and this is running daily at 2 p.m. For now.
Yep.
We'll revisit it once the restrictions are lifted. So
Yeah.
we are, I don't know, like day 7. I don't know.
Day 70, 100.
Yeah, it's been fun. Lots of laughs, lots of good topics, lots of things swirling around. So comment, share your
A new friend from New Zealand and sharing the same name as my sister. Pretty cool. I love that. That's neat. Hi, Daphne.
So our structure has been all about energy for the past 7 days.
It's not like we sat down and planned it out
No.
that way, but it just seemed to fit together, and I think they've been
Yeah,
fantastic.
we usually just pull from the previous day's conversation. Maybe someone
See
made a
where it
comment
goes
or
next.
asked a question.
Yeah.
And then we talk about it in the morning over coffee, and we just kind of pick a topic. So yeah, we'll see. Today's a little different, and then we'll just keep going from there.
Yep. Yeah, we take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and it's no different with what we're doing with this. We're just sharing examples from our lives, illustrations, things that we've learned, and ironically, things that I'm learning as we're doing this as well. Don't think that this is all just new information to you. Sometimes in my case of revisiting what I already know, I've seen it from a different angle, or I have an epiphany of my own. And we of course share that with you as we go. But it's been just as powerful and amazing experience as it is for me personally,
Yeah.
as we've been hearing for other people too. So that's pretty awesome. We're glad to see that people are liking
It's
it.
going over well.
Yeah.
We like this. It's something to do while you guys are locked away.
Yeah.
So if you've been in the shop before, notice behind us, we're in a different location. We actually took the Christmas tree down. So,
Finally,
Yeah, finally.
it took me
3
a
days.
solid 3 days of work because as you know, that 9-foot Christmas tree had lights built into it, and half of them didn't work. I desperately tried to find the bulbs that were missing, burnt out, blown,
We
preventing
found
it
them
from work.
now.
I found them as I went, but I literally took every single bulb out of that tree. Each bulb was held in by a minimum of 2 clips to hold it on there, and me being OCD, I made sure everything came out. So over, I don't know, it was like 10,000 bulbs or something to come out of there. It was a
Yeah.
lot of work, so it took a lot to come down. But now our fireplace is set back up, our
Our little
mantle,
mini
our
altar. Yeah.
beautiful picture above, and we do tend to change this up from time to time as well. This is the view that our members have in our MEC members.
Yeah.
Any workshops that we do, we're usually standing up in this place, and this is where they're looking. The front window facing north. It's very appropriate setup for an altar. But the view I have is what I normally get to see when our members are here, and we're missing that right now. But nevertheless, it's what we have and what we're working with. And we're not just sitting on our heels. Oops. I think, did our video just drop? Nope, still going.
Nope.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry. I thought it lagged there for a second. Okay, so today we are talking about what are you waiting for? What is holding you back? All this time we've been talking about energy, applying it, taking control over it, taking charge over it, recognizing your energy versus other people's energy, thwarting the negative energy or the vampiric approach from other people or spaces, etc. All in how to do with energy. And the next logical step that we found for this was the application process. And we've been encouraging everybody to find a method, to find a process, whether it's tapping into tools and resources, but really it comes down to a point where you have to actually stop and do something.
Yeah.
And we shared in earlier messages, discussions as well, how what you've always instinctively done has served you well, whereas a lot of other people really do have to struggle with it. And that's important to point out as well.
Hi, Nancy. We missed you too.
Hi, Nancy. Yep. Got a candle burning away. Habits and patterns are very challenging to break, very hard to break. And
Yes.
as much as we've been talking about energy with you guys, we went home last night and had to have this discussion with one of our little monkey butts at home.
We knew it was brewing.
It was coming, and it's like, oh, if we could just impart anything out of our wisdom. Do we have wisdom? Yeah, our insights, our wisdom, our experiences. It would be to recognize just how much control you have over your environment, yourself, your feelings, your thoughts, etc. And this is something that we're aggressively working on at home with somebody else as well. But those habits and patterns are very difficult to break, and we understand. But it's not going to happen if you don't apply some exertion.
And they can be such vicious cycles.
Oh, they can.
It's sad to see sometimes. Hi, Graham.
Routines. Very good at creating a false sense of security or comfort, confidence. We fall back into our old routines, our old patterns, and sometimes what is absolutely needed is to break out of those. And in some cases, you have to be broken before that can happen. And what we like to do is we like to empower people before they get to that place. From my own experience, that was part of my journey. But you've never really had to struggle with that because instinctively you've always taken those reins of control, applied the right force and action to make your magic happen. Fear of failure or pain can be a big reason why it holds people back, and we want to encourage you to take those risks. We shared in a previous social as well that my belief of what was that story where it was like take the leap of faith and grow your wings on the way down. It is absolutely essential sometimes that we do that, and it really is that step of action that is required. And we need to start applying the information that we know, that we understand, in order to make all of this come together.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
Yep.
We have some more hellos here.
Got some more hellos.
Denise, Crystal.
Carrie, I haven't heard that name in a while. Nice
Yeah.
to see you. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so on the course of action, I'm just going to share a little example. We did discuss this about my own tendencies and how that had to be viciously broken by Melinda here. While I was studying tarot,
Uses the word vicious.
oh yeah, no, she was heartless with
I
this.
was not.
Scared the pants off of me. So here it is. I was studying tarot. I was researching, learning, growing, consuming information at a rapid rate, but no action, no doing, no nothing like that. And Melinda make these suggestions. Maybe you should just do it. Maybe you should try it. Find somebody that you can explore this on or something. And there'd always be a good reason, a good explanation why it wasn't right. And then one day she's like, "Oh, by the way, I booked you in for an appointment, a tarot reading appointment tomorrow morning." I'm like, "I'm getting my cards read," and she's like, "No, no, 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 dear boy, you're reading somebody's cards at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So just giving you a heads up." And it happened.
Yes.
Not because of my call of action, but because somebody said, "Okay, I'm holding you accountable for this. Go. You have what it takes. You have the knowledge. Stop procrastinating and do it." And threw me off the cliff. And I learned very quickly how to fly.
He grew his wings
on my way down.
On the way down.
I remember explicitly that tarot reading and the enlightenments that came from it, the terror, the experience was amazing, scary, exhilarating, all of those things wrapped up into one. And yeah, quite profound. But there again, it was a call to action. And fortunately, I had somebody who was willing to throw me into that and sort of make that happen for me. Maybe you don't have that luxury. You have to step up and take those risks, those chances yourself. You have to apply your knowledge and your wisdom. So we're going to make a slight adjustment here because, well, this is really about taking action, taking steps, directions in our life, applying that. Melinda has a whole different approach on this. And we're just going to back up a little bit and we're going to talk about Melinda's story. We're going to let Melinda talk about her story.
Awesome.
Awesome.
What do you want to know?
Where did it all begin for you?
Short version?
Kind of, yeah. Let's talk about what put you on the path of witchcraft specifically.
Oh,
we're not talking about from the day you were conceived.
Yep,
this happened and this happened.
Greatness happened.
Greatness
the day
happened.
I was conceived.
Yeah. I think your dad would agree on that.
Yes, my dad would agree.
Fair enough. But what put you on the path of witchcraft specifically? How did that come about?
So I was a typical teenage girl, and some of you may already know this story because I am blunt with it. Mm-hmm. Typical teenage girl. I was 16. Lots of friends. I was a socialite. But lots of nasty friends. So we were a mean group of girls, teasing other people, treading on other people, making them feel bad so that we felt great. And it kind of took a turn for the worse with one of the kids we would tease a lot. So I kind of sat in the background. I didn't really tease people, but I definitely was part of their group. So I was there when it was happening. Yeah, so the one girl we teased, the one girl we belittled, she actually had a mental breakdown, and she tried to commit suicide. Not a proud moment here. So we got in a lot of trouble actually at school. We were called in and got into a lot of trouble for making this girl feel unwelcomed. Yeah, I just recognized something had to change in that moment. These friends were not serving me well. These nasty girls were not serving me well. So I chose to be solitary. I chose to spend my days in the school library or playing sports in the gym because I really enjoyed sports. I was a runner, so I would run a lot alone by myself. Yeah, and it was in that moment of days in the library that I came across a book, one simple little book that was out of place. I was doing a project on the Russian space satellite Sputnik, and there was a book by Margaret Adler, Drawing Down the Moon. So again, beyond my comprehension, I've said this before, is a nice thick book, but it was inspiring and it gave me something to work towards. So it took me a while, and I actually never finished her book. I went on to a smaller book, something more simple to understand and lead me into the craft, into witchcraft, paganism actually first. I started out with paganism. So a bad situation in my life turned into a very positive, healthy me.
Mm-hmm. For those who might not be familiar with the the book Drawing Down the Moon by Margaret Adler, it is not light and fluffy.
No.
It is not.
It's her years and
It's
years of experience.
from a woman who was
Yeah.
profoundly advanced and really did so much for the magical community and bringing it to the forefront of people's awareness, not for the fear or the mysticism or the frou-frou, but really for the truth behind magic as well. And we're grateful for everything she's done, and it was a sad loss when she passed away, what, 3 years ago?
No, the year I opened up
Wow, was it that long
Melinda's
ago?
Enchanted Cottage, Margaret Adler passed away
Wow.
like 4 months into my journey of a retail store of the magic, supplying stuff to the magical community. So that's back in, yeah, that's
16,
almost
2016.
7 years ago. 2014.
Wow.
2014.
Time flies. It gets
So-
faster as we get older. We're going to
So, yeah.
explore more about the story, about the shop, and how it came to be, and that sort of thing. That is part of your story as well. But before we get too far down that road, we want to look at the realization that back then the information wasn't as accessible
No.
or misleading as it is today. We're dating ourselves, obviously, before internet, before that kind of connection was available and made known to us. We relied on knowledge through books, through magazines,
You
through
guys.
newspaper articles. Yeah.
You guys starting out now, or even a few years
Yeah.
ago, have a plethora of information,
Yeah.
and not just on witchcraft, but spirituality in general,
Mhm.
right? Like it's Wicca, it's witchcraft, it's meditations, it's just higher self learning. You guys have so many resourceful tools to draw from. I didn't have that back then. I had a lot of light and fluffy, cutesy little spell books and things. And then, of course, the chewier ones as well. So,
Yep. Part of the problem that we have nowadays, and we do recognize this, is because of all the information that's out there, it is a lot more difficult to find what we feel might be a truth or a path or a belief structure that we can log into. And I think we find this a lot is there's the old method, the old prevailing idea that there does need to be a recipe, a formula, mixed with the idea that everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and it's very complicated and confusing for new witches to, well, what is the truth? What is the purpose? What is the secret behind magic? Well, the secret behind magic is you're doing it, and it's your magic. That is essentially what it's really all about, and that's not something that's easily recognized within the scripts, within the books, within the blogs, within the videos that are all circulating around, piling up on top of each other. And that's something that we kind of like to get across.
I
as
think
well.
too many resources is confusing for people nowadays
And overwhelming.
and overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's why at the shop, I'm really all about simplifying things for people so they can do hands-on practice, because that's how I learned. I learned hands-on practice, and if I wasn't satisfied with the results of what I was doing, I learned to tweak it and just try again and try again and try again.
Yeah.
So now the resources being so abundant is actually hindering people from staying on this path.
It's overwhelming. So let's actually
It's
back
scary.
up a little bit and talk about that. I mean, as 16 years old, new to the path, new to exploring all of this, what were your thoughts? What were your feelings about it? How did you feel discovering this? And I am going to point out that this was a very strong synchronicity moment for Melinda. As she mentioned, I think you mentioned that this book had been misshelved
Yes.
in one of our earlier
In a
workshops.
public school
Yeah,
library.
this is not a public school library book either.
Shouldn't have
by
been
the
there.
way. Not because it's wildly inappropriate, but because it's advanced, complex information that is not. It is not for the minds of those young teens kind of coming into their own. Not that they shouldn't be exploring that, but at the same time, I had a hard time getting through it myself as an adult. So that talks about the context and the content of this book. It was chewy information. So following the synchronicity, and we shared our own examples of synchronicity with books and bookshelves and chapters as well. But this was for you.
I didn't sign the book out either, people.
Oh, you just swiped it. she was not always a good child.
No, I returned it once I was onto something
So,
different.
did you take it?
No, I put it back on the shelf.
Oh, you didn't take it out of the
No,
library.
I took it out of the library
Right.
by not signing it out. And then when I returned it, I just went and reshelved it
Snuck it
somewhere.
back in there. So this is what I was actually going to get to. In your early days, your pioneer days of exploring magic, the secrecy, the idea of it being maybe taboo, what were your thoughts on it? What were your feelings?
Definitely like a weird kind of topic. Not taboo. My first initial moments, it was a weird topic. I was athletic. I was popular. These were not normal normal things to look at when you were in that situation, right? I wasn't the loner. I wasn't that until afterwards. I became a very solitary individual. Still had lots of friends that I communicated with, but to this day, I never really had more than one good friend at a time. So I was very much a solitary individual.
Yeah.
With that. But yeah, it was not taboo. It was exciting. It was different. It was new. I was always an earthy child. My parents kind of raised me to be that way, to be earthy, loving the outdoors, the woods, animals, that kind of stuff. So it was definitely, the pagan aspects of it was along my line of thinking.
It wasn't a real stretch.
It wasn't
for
a
you.
stretch
Nope.
for me to study pagans, to study country dwellers, to study herbs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So you had the background already to support the belief structure.
Yep, my parents were not religious
Yep.
individuals.
You had the freedom to be able to explore this, although
Yes.
you didn't expressly
I
put that
didn't
out there.
tell people.
No.
I didn't put that out there. I was,
Just curious and
yeah.
inquiring, searching.
It was
looking.
on my own time. It was
Sure.
my own thing. So I didn't feel the need to hide it, but I also didn't feel the need to broadcast it until people actually asked me questions about it. Then I would answer.
And honestly, that didn't really happen until significantly later in your life.
Until I opened Melinda's Enchanted Cottage.
We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, that was a huge transformational leap of faith for you as well.
Yes.
And we'll explore how that action altered and changed your life. But really, we want to get a background. We want to get an idea of why, for Melinda, this has always been well, I don't want to use the word easy path.
No,
because
it
that's-
was easy.
It was just different because you didn't have any bias or pre-programming that
No.
you had to let go of. You were just allowed to evolve, allowed to fit into your area. And it's not because she was neglected as a child, left alone. No, don't get those ideas or those perceptions. But you were given and granted the freedom to be able to determine your truths, to be
Yeah.
able to find your path in life.
My parents were amazing. They still are amazing. The freedom to learn and do whatever I wanted as a child. Family has always been a
Priority
huge
number one.
priority
Yeah.
number one in my life. That's from my own parents. But the freedom to be who I wanted to be or study any religion or anything, it was free for me to do that. They would provide me with the resources, the mode of transportation,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would just gobble up whatever I wanted to.
The sacrifices they made for you are no different than most parents make
Yes.
for others.
Yep.
Maybe even more so than others. I
Yep.
mean, there's always the extremes of that, and you were very, very fortunate, very blessed in the life that you had.
Yes.
And not saying that other people haven't had freedoms and privileges and responsibilities, but I think the epiphany that we came to
Well, yeah.
through discussing this is some people's paths were completely different.
Some people don't find this path because there are family restrictions put on them. You, per se, didn't find this path because you had a different upbringing than this. I was free to choose Christianity, to choose Catholicism. I had friends that were Christian, Catholics.
Yep.
I was a witch. So
And I think that's an interesting thing that we need to touch on as well, is that it wasn't that you were oblivious to
No.
my path even,
No.
because we did cross paths all through our life.
we did.
Funny enough, though, our circles did not clearly intersect because they were very specifically different. As much as we saw each other, talked with each other, etc., I wasn't until I got older that I actually recognized that the people I saw as my friends, they just happened to be in the same area but did not necessarily share the same beliefs. And my attitude back then was not one that would recognize or see that. So it was kind of a funny little epiphany that I had much later in life. But so, as a young person exploring this, the freedom to do so, not broadcasting it from the rooftops. You didn't jump up on a soapbox right away.
Never.
And
Never
say,
have.
Well, no, you never really have. Even without opening the shop, we don't. I mean, we take our stance in admitting that we're here, that sort of thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But we've never pushed any kind of agenda or bias or anything like that. We've always had our doors open to anybody who wants to come in and learn about us, learn about our story, and agree to disagree, I guess, would be all that we really ask of anybody. It's not necessarily your path, and we're okay with that as long as you're not coming in here aggressively or hostile. There's no reason to feel apprehensive or shy or anything, really.
Yeah.
So that's a little side note on us and who we are. But again, with this being about action and coming to action, what do you feel?
Oh no, he's got questions.
Yeah, well, I don't just do willy nilly. No,
Okay.
I've got my own agenda here. You're not necessarily
Yes, I'm
privy
not
to it.
privy to the agenda.
Okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, what would you encourage people to do with respect to our topic today being all about taking action?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Okay, what would you suggest?
Hands-on practice.
Hands-on practice.
I love a good book. I love studying. I love knowledge. But there's nothing better than hands-on practice. A lot of people in my field of expertise would say, no, read, know everything. Me, I'm like, read a chapter and go do it. Definitely, hands-on practice. If you're learning from books, read the chapter and go do it. If you're learning from workshops or videos like this or from Jeremy and I, take what we have to say, tweak it to your own thing, and then go do it. Always go do it. There should never be that stop. Okay, so I read that chapter, now I'm going to move on to the next one. You should always follow through and hands-on practice.
I'm famous for this. I'll be reading books on, say, for example, ritual work, and then it'll come to the part where it's like, do this exercise, and I'm like,
Doesn't do it.
got it.
Check. Next page.
Yeah, and it's not
I
because
know.
I haven't done it, but sometimes my failure to actually redo it necessarily, in that instance, to redo it and actually stop and do the exercise. It might even be an exercise I've done before, but my knowledge brain part goes, yep, you got this. And then there's a part of me that fails on the follow through because I assume that I've done it. And yeah, that's a challenge.
So a lot of people ask at the shop, how is it that I know so much about plants and herbs?
Sure.
It's my favorite thing. It's because I've read about something and then I've went and found it and I applied it.
Yep.
Or I found it out in nature and then went and read about it.
Yep.
Right? Like it's always both parts. You have to have both parts, the knowledge and then the hands-on practical work.
Knowing you as well, it's not unusual for us to come across something and you're like, why am I seeing this all of a sudden? Why
Yes.
is this like forefront in my vision instead of just off to the peripherals? And in several cases, we've actually carefully harvested something, brought it home, only to find out that it's exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
Following the synchronicity, that is magic in and of itself.
Yes, always. Jeremy could be driving and I'm like, pull
stop,
over,
pull over,
pull
let's get
over,
that.
I need that right there. I need that.
And she's like, you go get that.
Go,
it might be
go get that. It
might
could be
be-
poisonous.
allergic reaction. I'll be the one like, oh yeah, that's probably something I should have used gloves for. Anyhow, we bunny trailed. I wanted to
Yeah,
talk
sorry.
a little bit about, when you first got started, where were your actions? What was it all about for magic for you? Yeah, I'm going to embarrass you. 'Cause I know.
Boys.
So, of course it was. You were a 16-year-old
I was
girl.
16. I used magic for boys.
Yeah, you did.
Hello.
Okay.
I'm no different than any other person that comes in here. Love, romance,
Yep.
boys,
Yep.
right?
Okay. And
Glamour spells.
sure. Well, that's the word, the key word I was looking for specifically. It wouldn't have been about herbs back then.
Not entirely.
No.
I was already familiar with plants because my dad was a hunter, so I was already familiar with the woods,
Yep.
with animals and things like that. So that was definitely something I enjoyed. But let's get to the heart of the magic and spells. Was all about boys. Boys.
Boys. And for my daughter watching.
It's all about boys.
Okay, anyhow, yes, boys. So basically, what it came to for magic for you, your compelling feature behind magic was manipulating energy.
Yes.
Let's be honest, that's what it was,
I was
intuitively
yeah.
or instinctively or without really truthful consideration as to what it was at that stage. Spell casting, spell work for attraction, for love,
Yeah.
for glamour, for whatever. And that was
Acing that test.
what got you started. Simple,
Yep.
easy magic.
Yes.
Getting more complex, more complicated
As
over time.
my life got complex as I became an adult.
Sure. And I think that that is a very natural step for new beginners
Sure
to
it
get
is.
excited about what are spells, what is spell casting, how does it work, the recipes, the formulas, the tried and true. What is it you don't do anything with anymore?
I don't spell work.
No, not in the same way that
No.
you did back then.
No, I would have created and crafted spells so much back then. Now I create and craft for the benefit of others.
Hmm. Which is a little bit of a oxymoron because we've always been saying that we can't do magic for you as effectively as you can do for yourselves, but that is very much the foundation of what a lot of our magic, what the shop essentially is really all about, is providing people with the tools, the knowledge, the awareness, the skills,
The
etc.
hands-on
Very
practice,
much. Yep.
right? Everything I do in the shop is so that you guys can do some hands-on practice as you learn.
Elizabeth says, apparently it worked, LOL. Let's go to that
No,
statement because
he
guess what?
asked me that actually.
Yep. Did you cast a spell on me? How much of this is my own free will and how much of this is your own manipulation playing out
I
there?
wasn't doing magic at the time I met Jeremy.
Yep, you
Like,
were
I
actually
mean,
abstaining.
I was living a magical lifestyle,
Yes.
still doing energy work,
Yes.
working the shop, but I wasn't practicing magic. I wasn't spell casting at the time I met Jeremy at all.
I would say you probably weren't even actually working to manipulate energy.
No,
Out
I had
of-
to choose my words wisely.
Out of wisdom,
Yes.
knowledge that this was not the right time or the right place or the right environment for that. So ironically, when she stopped spellcasting is when I was free to actually pop in. Our lives finally intersected in that way. But this is not about me here.
I lived vicariously through Jeremy.
At that point, yeah, she was exploring the thrill of watching somebody new to the craft.
I became
come
the
through it.
teacher.
Thrill and frustration. I'm
Yes.
going to say that we've had a few heated discussions over that where it's like, why can't you get this through your thick skull? Just do it. Just do it. And I'm like, oh, you don't understand. My thick skull still hasn't figured it out yet. And that's where a lot of our discussions
Very
have come
frustrating
from.
for someone who has been at it for this long.
Okay, so right there you recognize that you have a lot of time and experience behind you.
Yes.
And the frustrating aspect of this is that as we get later in life, we recognize that we don't have the luxury of time sometimes. And you've evolved from that state where it's all about the spell casting, the tools, the techniques, the rituals, the words, the careful consideration to, I don't got time for that. I need magic to happen, and this is going to happen right here, right now.
Yes.
It's just a different way of working that magic, but you still have to walk before you can run. And the nice thing was, from a young age, you were able to explore how to walk and move forward and explore how to run. And you've just had a very good gait, a very good movement, a good ability to be able to do that. Now, at the same time, as much as you weren't shouting it from the rooftops, you weren't exactly hiding it, but at the same time,
No.
it was a very quiet, personal, spiritual thing for you.
It's part of my everyday life. So for new people, it's not normal for them. It feels weird, I guess. But for me, it was my everyday lifestyle and choices. So I integrated magic into my daily routines, how I lived, eventually how I raised my kids. So it wasn't that I had to pull out a book and say, this is witchcraft. It was just things that I incorporated into my daily life. So I didn't have to shout it from the rooftops. It was there. It's there for me, my own personal journey.
I'm not going to expose the intimacy of this magic spell, but I do remember you talking about the simplicity of wishing on that first star that you saw at night.
Oh yeah.
The little childhood.
I still do it.
Oh shoot, I forget what it is now.
It's-
First star I see
Yep.
tonight. I wish I
Starlight,
may, I wish I-
star
Yeah.
bright. The first star I see tonight. I wish I may. I wish I might have this. Wish I wish tonight.
She wasn't
so it's
5.
Childhood thing.
She wasn't 5 at this stage.
No.
This was the life that
I
she
still
was
do it.
living
I'm
already.
40.
Yeah, and obviously the complexity of the intention and the magic that goes with it is much simpler than just like, oh, here's the rhyme and spitting it out. But this is the life that you've lived and had for a long, long time now.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I
hasn't
don't
it-
mind sharing. It is a
Okay. I
Great
wasn't going
story.
to share it on your behalf, so go
no.
for
It's
it.
when I was 13, I lost my uncle, my great uncle actually, but he was my godfather, and I was very, very close to him. He's very close to my parents too, but I lost him. He died. And it was that day that I started using that little mantra to communicate with him. And I had the same wish from the day I was 13 to the day now that I'm 40. Like the same thing. Even though I don't have kids, even though I wouldn't have had kids back then, I still have that same communication with my uncle. So it's really all about the magic between him and I.
Yep. And the truth of people's energies still being here after we're gone is really exemplified in this illustration, because Melinda holds that attitude near and dear in her heart all the time. And every single night when there's a single star that she can pick out first and foremost,
Yep.
Uncle Murray is a part of her life. And the same holds true for me with people who've passed in my life as well. Instinctively, I've done this, not wishing upon a star. But there are people in my life who are no longer here that are no less present in my life now than they were when they were alive on this earth, because I hold them in my life on a day-to-day basis.
And he's the only one I do this
I'm a little,
with.
yeah.
He's actually the only one I visit as
Yeah.
well around Soween.
Yeah.
I haven't not for a few
while.
years. The shop keeps me busy, but
And kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I would usually go visit as well. So yeah, it's just my little way of connecting on a magical level.
Yep. So the simplicity of that magic
Yeah.
is juvenile
Simple.
and childish as
13
it sounds.
years old.
I can assure you, whoever's watching, that this is not superficial. It's not
No.
silly. And all it takes is that childhood recognition with the heart of maturity and the application of action to
Yeah.
make this a daily practice in your life.
My kids ask what I'm doing when I take that extra 10 minutes outside before coming in the house after picking up groceries or something, getting out of the van. The kids are like,
Are you coming?
"Are you coming, Mom? What are you
Yeah.
doing, Mom?" Right?
And now they know.
now they know. Now I've shared
Yeah.
a little piece of magic with them.
Yeah. So, as much as you've never had to hide who you were, what you believed in, you never really broadcasted it, or
Right.
you never took your soapbox out and launched your campaigns
Never.
or your platform. How did it feel opening up the shop?
I was worried at first. I did 2 years of research for business, exploring the occult stores, websites, that kind of thing. It was like the business aspect of it.
Back then, there was
Back then,
not.
there was not a lot. Like, they would ask who your competitors are, and believe me, there was like online competitors and 2 stores, which were 2-3 hours away from me. But when I worked with, am I allowed to say?
Yes.
Okay. When I worked
Sure,
with
yes.
business places, so Venture Norfolk, it's now Venture Norfolk. Great great tools,
Yes.
great workshops they provided, but they actually told me to not open up in Simcoe. They wanted me to take my venture, my business plan, and open up in Brantford. They said Simcoe has no place for an occult shop, a witchcraft shop.
More churches per capita than
Yes.
any other town in southern Ontario.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was a thing.
Yep.
I didn't realize I had to hide or I had to go to a place that would be accepting of me. My thoughts were I was born and raised in this town, not born, but raised
Yeah.
in this town in Norfolk. I was a part of the community. I went to school here. Why wouldn't I open up in Simcoe? My kids are here. That was the whole point, too, is that I was a mom and I wanted to be available for my kids. I didn't realize that that was a thing, that people wouldn't accept me opening up an occult shop in Simcoe.
They also looked at it from a not only a spiritual numbers point of view, but also
They didn't
like
think it would succeed.
it's Simcoe. Why wouldn't you open up in a city where your demographic is greater, higher, etc.? They were looking at it from a purely business statistic, but they were really overlooking something. Magic. Melinda,
Me.
what have
People
you
come
failed at,
for me.
honestly? And it's just because you managed to manifest the energy
Yes.
and the will from years of experience. But the problem is now you were sticking your head up saying, hello, I'm here and I'm going to do this. And people are like, what?
So,
That's a thing?
I was excited at first to open the shop
Sure.
until Venture Norfolk said this to me.
Yeah.
Then I had a little bit of fear. I'm like, oh my goodness, what if people don't accept the type of store I'm doing? My parents didn't even know the type of store I was opening up. So my parents were all about becoming an entrepreneur, opening up
Small
my
business.
own shop,
Yep.
small business. My dad even made a few suggestions of the type of business I should be opening.
Yeah.
And I went with something, if I had to work in it all day, I wanted to work in something that I was passionate about and that I was very, very familiar and strong with. So the craft was one of them. And my dad had the cutest response. I shouldn't be so mean. My dad had the cutest response when I told him I was opening up an occult shop, a witchcraft shop. He looked around the store and went, yeah, this real good, cool idea. Harry Potter's really popular right now.
Keep in mind, as much as she wasn't hiding who she was or ashamed of it, she didn't broadcast
I didn't
it either.
broadcast it.
So we have had this discussion as well, where there was maybe some hesitation in actually coming out and
Yeah, little.
labeling yourself as a witch.
Didn't know who would walk in the shop.
That's right. And even my first journeys into the shop, or actually my ownership into the shop, I would get a lot of people, this is kind of a side note here, I'd get a lot of people who would come in and they'd say, oh, I'm so and so, I'm this and that, and I have this this certificate or this degree, and I follow this philosophy, and who are you? And I'd hold out my hand and I'd say, I'm Jeremiah, I'm Jeremy. Nice to meet you. Like, the simplicity of being who I am is really more than sufficient for me. You've never really had to peg yourself,
No.
pigeonhole, label, classify, justify, or anything like that, because
No.
you've always just lived your life the way you've wanted to live. And ironically, by opening up the shop, you've almost clarified or quantified, or I would in some cases suggest that you've probably limited the capacity of who you are because of presumptions or prejudices that are
Sure.
made, right? We all combat that. And one of the privileges and benefits to being a solitary witch is we aren't limited by any of those things. We can explore freely what we're interested in, what works, what doesn't work. We're not ashamed to try something for fear of failure because nobody's watching us. We don't necessarily have that luxury in the shop, and I would say that that was probably your biggest fear in opening. Not so much the failure, but just the lack of understanding or awareness that other people had about the truth of who you were and things
Well,
like that.
I'm not just a witch. That's,
No, you're not.
But because I opened the shop, that's the place people come from with it.
Yeah.
They think Melinda the witch, right? I mean, I'm a mom first and foremost. I like other stuff too. Yeah.
Yep, it's not
But I
limited
never,
to all of that.
I never had a broom closet. I assume you all know what I mean when I say broom closet.
Yeah.
I hear this all the time in the shop that I've just coming out of the broom closet, and I've never had to deal with that. I never had that. I never had a closet that I had to stay in.
Yeah. We still recognize that prejudice is still there in some cases.
Never knew that was a thing.
Nope, you just
Not
instinctively
until I
did
met
it.
you.
Yep, and then yeah, we've had some interesting experiences. Going back to the professionals aspect, you did push this past a kind of a panel of people on a business level.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, a few years ago, we had an opportunity to present itself to us, and we really wanted to explore. I'm going to choose my words carefully here.
Yes.
But we did bring it to a panel of professionals as
To
well.
the
and say,
same panel of professionals
Okay.
that I went with first.
We've
I'm
been
going to
here.
put that out there.
Sure, yeah, well, I wasn't
Yeah.
going to hide that. But we did say this is an idea, this is what we'd like to do, we'd like to explore this, and we'd like you to be on board with this as well. We took your advice.
We wanted
took
to
your
expand.
suggestions. We did.
So before we went into Dover or the first year?
After we were in Dover, we had both locations.
So we expanded into Dover. Yep. We had both locations, but I wanted to expand the Simcoe shop into a bigger, huge shop.
Yes.
Instead of the little 800 square foot we had, I wanted bigger, much bigger. Yeah, so as Jeremy was saying, we went to Venture Norfolk again to put our plan into place and maybe get some financial assistance from them.
Yep, just a little capital to get started. We had a very aggressive plan actually, and it was daunting on paper, and we could understand their trepidations obviously with this. But nevertheless, we presented it with them, and we jumped through quite a bit of hoops. Oh my goodness, there were, I think it was like a solid month of late nights putting packages together, preparing
numbers,
stuff.
business,
literally
portfolios.
put it together as a presentation and met with them and talked with them about it, and all to the final finish line where they dangled that carrot just out of reach because they didn't expect that we'd be able to meet our own expectations.
Let's just say we were told that my profit forecasting, so my numbers, were very aggressive, and there's no way a shop like ours would meet those numbers.
Yep.
Basically, that's what we were told.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, that's what we were told. And
truthfully, it was like, if you can get to this point, we'll get behind you, but we know you can't, so we're free of feeling bad for saying no.
Yes, those numbers are too aggressive. Sure. You will never reach that kind of capitalism in the field. Capital. Yes. In the field of witchcraft.
Sure. So we understand that's their right to say so, and we moved on our way, a little dejected at the time.
Can you still tell that I'm a little?
She's a little
hot
she's
about this.
Only hot about this because let's look at our environment. Here we are in the location that is still grander than what we had in mind then. We did it ourselves. We met and exceeded our goals that we presented to them. So just putting that out there.
The aggressive
nature.
Financial aspects of Melinda's Enchanted Cottage have been met and have exceeded what I forecasted to this place.
Yes.
To Norfolk Venture Norfolk.
Here in Simcoe, by the way, the town that they told us we wouldn't be able to do it in. The town that in some cases we're hearing, why are you still here? Well, it's
people ask, they're like, you're way too pretty of a shop to
5
be
minutes
in
away.
Downtown Simcoe.
Why downtown Simcoe? Because it's where we live. It's where
we're from.
Live. And why would we not do it here in downtown Simcoe? For a while there, we put a lot of effort into actively trying to spruce up the community. And we had
with our peddlers markets, bringing people downtown Simcoe, trying to share Norfolk County with everyone and bring people into Norfolk County. We've hit lots of hills, lots of roadblocks on that idea.
Ironically, even from the town itself. But
from the town itself. We're gonna get in trouble for this.
Maybe you asked for controversial, and I don't want to linger on this, but I do think it needs to be said that really what it came down to is our actions.
Yes.
Of what we believed in weren't held back by other people.
Never.
We find our way through it. they throw a no, we make our own yes. They throw a not the right time, place, environment, we're like, okay, we make it happen. Even COVID, by example.
Yeah.
The government says you have to close down. You can't run or operate your business the way you are accustomed to. We're like, no problem. Let's get creative. Let's find a solution to this and make our magic happen. And we are doing quite well.
Yes.
In spite of it, even if it's just on our own energetic levels.
Because we took action.
Yeah.
I've always succeeded because of action.
Mm-hmm. That's basically the gist of what I wanted to get across with you guys today, is what Melinda's always kind of done instinctively. For us late in the game, it's going to be a little more of a challenge to have that faith, to have that trust in ourselves, to take that leap of faith and to grow our wings on the way down. But essentially that is what magic really is. And we've had that many a discussion where you're like, why can't you just accept it and do it like I always have?
Yes.
I'm like, because
that's a hard one for me.
The challenges are so much greater. Not that that's an excuse, but the mental roadblocks that we have to overcome from somebody who's had to journey a lot further to get there, that holds us back. I'm just going to catch up real quick.
Catch up on some stuff, because people are definitely talking about the broom closet aspect. What people go through nowadays.
Sharon says it took a while to say the actual words "I am a witch," to tell friends, family. Most are very accepting, and I thought it wouldn't be like that. I thought mostly they would scoff. Sorry, I need glasses.
I was pleasantly surprised, and some even said, well, I knew there was something like that about you.
Yeah.
So, fear to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, there's no fear now. You've been accepted. But honestly, if you weren't accepted, would you change
who you were?
Who you are?
To go back to the example of the feelings of defeat or disappointment from professionals that are guiding us through, saying you can't have that, it's not going to work, not the right place, not the right time. We took that to heart. We wallowed in it for about a week or so on that specific instance.
I didn't wallow. I was angry.
Yeah, and then we said, you know what? We're just going to keep moving forward in our own way, in our own pace, because we know and believe fully that this is what needs to happen.
Even today, Jeremy stops me from driving up there and showing them.
Elizabeth says,
they were wrong.
Where there's a will, there's a way, and this is the truth of what we're saying as well. The essence of energy is having that will to find your way.
So Charmaine says,
why witchcraft compared to other practices? Again, because people like a label. That's really what it comes down to. Versus other practices, what Melinda was familiar with.
Yeah.
It was essentially your life. Not that it is the be-all, end-all of... But at some point we have to say, okay, if you need to identify with me in some way, this is probably the closest way you'll know.
So for people who have been in the shop, it's spirituality. I mean, you can find this stuff all sorts of places. What you can't find is what I'm familiar with, is the witchcraft aspect, the pagan aspect, Celtic Druidism, right? Those are my key things that I bring to the shop, and I will always maintain that.
Yep.
And anything going forward that I study, I'll bring into the shop. But yeah, it's what I started with. It's what I opened the business to be, and it's what we will keep on doing.
Yep, it evolves all the time. It's in a constant state of evolving.
People did shun.
A little bit.
People thought I was crazy for opening up a witchcraft shop.
Not so much anymore. Our
No,
name is,
not so much more. Like, not now.
It's out there for sure. People got to know us quite well over the years that we've been open. They know the struggles that we've gone through, not on a spiritual level, but on a personal level. Things that we've tackled, and the way we've tackled them have been a light, a beacon, I suppose, to other people as well. We get these comments all the time, people coming in, wow, this is not what I expected, or I really like this, or just genuine surprise.
Because it's not TV and it's not Hollywood.
Yep.
This is my real life.
Yep.
This is, if you come to my house, and a few of you have been to my house, It is the same as the shop.
Yeah. Yeah, on a simpler level, I would think. Actually, we put a lot of effort into making the shop the way it is, and because this is how we live and who we are, anyways, we live at the shop just as much as we live at home. It does get a little confusing sometimes recognizing where we are, whether we're home or we're at the shop. And it's not just because of the location or the environment, etc. It's like one and the same.
Yeah.
We live here at the shop. We live at home. I guess the key word
We
there
practice
is
what we preach.
we live. We live, and the truth of who we are is really shown through the way we live here in the shop. I'm going to talk about that just briefly as well. When you first started, there really weren't witches out there. It wasn't like there
No.
was a we did talk about this. There might be the extremes, the heavy metal,
Yeah,
satanic idea of witchcraft, the gothy people, but even in our little environment, our area, that really wasn't a thing. I certainly don't remember them in my youth, in my 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old me. Mind you, I will also admit I ran a whole different circle. I was a little bit oblivious to a lot of the environment that was out there. And at that age, I was really starting to look around and explore that, but from the safety of who I was. But you even said that really wasn't a thing. We see this a lot of young newbie witches, and we're not talking just age,
No.
but a lot of them jump on the whole the craft idea, where it's like the wearing dark and the gothy.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's a sexy quality. Don't
It
get
is.
me wrong. It's really intriguing and appealing, but it's, again, not always necessarily the truth of what it is all about. I love that analogy. All thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. Just because it looks like a witch, dresses like a witch, talks like a witch, and acts like a witch, means it's a witch, and vice versa. How many witches are out there who, as I mentioned before in other stories, somebody who can just walk into my presence and I feel the energy of who they are and know instantly this is a person of power. That's amazing. That's the truth behind witchcraft. And not that doesn't mean you can't dress to match, but at the same time, that's not always what it's all about. You share the story of a friend of yours that picked you up to take you to Pagan Fest.
Yeah, so when I first opened the shop, I wanted to check out Pagan Fest in Hamilton. I'd never been. I never really go anywhere to other stores, other functions, whatever. So I picked up a friend to go to Hamilton to Pagan Fest, and I was wearing flip-flops, jeans, and a hooded sweater. And he actually asked, he's like, "Is that what you're wearing?" And I'm like, am I not supposed to be wearing this? And he's like, "Well, I thought you'd dress a little more witchier." And I'm like, "And how does one witch dress?"
Yeah, let me know the
Right?
protocol
Let me
here.
know the protocol here, because flip-flops, jeans, and sweaters are my go-to, my comfort.
Yep.
It makes me who I am. So yeah, how does a witch dress? Just curious.
Yep. And that is the truth behind it, because a lot of times we see beyond the presentation that's presented to us to the truth behind the persona, as it were, of who people are. Now, that being said, it's not like this is a practice. It's not like everybody who comes in, we read them.
No.
We've had this before, too.
To each his own.
yeah.
There's no judgment.
There
Yeah.
isn't, and it's not even necessarily what we feel is our right to do. But we can usually tell people who are playing at being a witch versus people who actually live the lifestyle. And it's very rarely ever only to do with their presentation or the way they
Yeah.
present themselves.
So just Sharon says witchcraft is trending.
Yes.
It is trendy. As soon as you get movies like The Craft and Practical Magic, we all love them. Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
I love them. My kids love them. It becomes trendy. Magic becomes trendy. It's really not that glorious, glamorous. I live a very boring life.
You do?
Okay, maybe not. Okay.
Okay, I did want to come back up to this comment. Sorry,
Sure.
the computer's just a little too far away. Oops. Charmaine says, what advice do you give to someone who is just starting or... oh no. Where am
Oh,
I?
you're just like
I'm
all
lost.
over the board here.
It's a hot mess. What advice would you give to someone who has just started to show interest? Congratulations, you have interest. That's the first thing. Really, it's a blend of, like I say, knowledge, wisdom and then action. Do.
I would say just
Research,
be
study,
truthful.
but know who you are and what appeals to you, and follow that path, follow the journey. We talked in
Just be
previous
honest.
episodes too about the potential for having that mind blown experience where everything becomes something. Don't allow yourself to get to that place where you're like a squirrel with
Yeah.
ADHD, where you're just pinging and bouncing all over the place. At least find a routine or a structure that you're familiar or comfortable with, of action and doing. Yeah, you want to answer that just in case?
Hang on, guys. Hello? I'm good. How are you? Be right back. Yes, we are open for.
Sorry, it's just a customer. We thought it might be somebody calling in because we did post the number here, 226-931-1419. We didn't want to deny the opportunity for somebody to call in and weigh in on this as well. This is where it'd be really nice if we had like a social media coordinator, somebody to help us out with this that can kind of take the phone calls in. We're going to get there eventually, I'm sure of it. But for now, this is Melinda just talking with a customer. To get back to the question, really it comes down to action. Find the thing that you're passionate about, explore it. Don't let yourself become overwhelmed or intimidated even by all the information that's out there. We did share earlier on in the session here how the amount of information that is available to us can be very overwhelming. It can be an awful lot, and sometimes it's hard to muddle through all of that. I would say really just explore the topics and the things that interest you, appeal to you, and as other people have mentioned on this as well, make it your own. Make it personal, make it something that you're comfortable with. Melinda, as she shared earlier, her journey started with spell crafting for the purpose of glamour, for attraction, working and manipulating energy around boys, etc. As she matured, so did the magic, so did the recognition of her power. She doesn't do that anymore. She doesn't even spell cast. We talk about how I'll be honest, she is at a place where if she wants something to happen, she just makes it happen. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't require tools. She doesn't require long drawn out rituals, carefully calculated, precise words. The power of her intention is such that she can just make her magic happen, as we've proven time and time again in our own personal lives to each other. And keeping our minds and our eyes on the goals, the dreams, the expectations that we have for ourselves, the milestones that we'd like to surpass. This is what keeps the magic real and alive in our lives. So for you who are new to exploring this, set realistic goals, set realistic dreams, and then as you meet them, keep setting that bar higher and higher and higher. I still haven't had the chance to find out that quote. I'm sure I'm bastardizing it, something fierce, but it was something along the lines of, woe to the man who aims low and meets his mark. So much better to reach for the stars and at least be amongst the cosmos. This is what magic is really all about. What are you capable of? The sky's the limit. It's up to you to explore that. Witchcraft is trending, as Sharon says. Elizabeth points out, forget your pointy hat. We do have them here at the shop just for funs. At no point have I even ceremonially worn a witchy hat. I think I've used them in jest, but even for Halloween decorations, I've never put on a pointy hat. They do have symbolism. They are representative of something, and it certainly was not. I don't even know that it was a cultural thing. The pointy hat idea. I don't believe that
Oh,
had. It was
like the witch's
the
hat.
cone of energy above the head. It was more of a illustrative concept, I
Yep.
believe.
It's
than
a
it
new
was
age
historically
thing.
a thing.
Yeah.
It might have been culturally significant in some place, but not necessarily relevant to
witchcraft. No.
Crystal says she was excited to come and be able to find tarot cards and runes and all the things I loved. The
Cool.
tea leaf reading was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, we do tend to surprise people sometimes, and I forgot I wanted to talk just briefly about that as well. Your journey with magic has not always been glamorous and happy, and as much as this was who you were and you grew in leaps and bounds quietly behind the scenes, to the people who didn't know you as you were doing this, that was
Oh.
intimidating. But I also
Yes.
want to point out, even to the people who did know you and even had an inkling or a belief on who you were and what you were capable of, you could startle them.
Yeah, so Jeremy's referring to friendships along the
Yes.
way. Um, Even though I have the shop and my friends were well aware of the shop, so they kind of understood what I was into, they really didn't understand how deep that went. So there were moments with friends where we call them aha moments. Um, yeah, those aha moments come up, those spitting things out that people just couldn't possibly know, or situations that have occurred. I don't know.
I'm not looking for specifics.
Okay,
No,
I don't want
I'm
to
not.
exactly
I
say
wanted to break
specifics
that off.
because she comes on here sometimes, and I don't want her to be put in the hot seat.
We
That's
don't want
not
them
fair.
to feel bad about this. This isn't
Yes.
the point of that.
So there are situations where my um, talents,
Skill.
skills
Yeah.
have come out with my friends in normal conversation, and it has taken them by surprise. It is a little off-putting for them, to the point where they sometimes don't want to come around me because they know if they're in a bad place, I'll know exactly what's going on.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I do lose friends because of what I can do. And that's probably the hardest aspect of being who I am.
Sure.
When I let people in and they actually see the potential and where magic can go and how it works, people do get a little frightened, intimidated. Even children, like
Yes. Yeah, we've
your
scared
your
some kids.
yes, yeah, your kids have been
Yeah.
a little leery on things, and sometimes they're kind of afraid to be around me because I know things that they don't want other people to know, just by being in their energy bubble, their presence.
Yeah.
So-
You have an innate ability to recognize the truth before other people do.
Yes.
And that's very intimidating for people when you. It's really funny. I'll share a good example
Sure.
from the shop here. It just happened at Christmas time. It was,
I know what you're
It
sharing.
was a lot of fun.
Oops.
And I'll tell you the little secret behind it as well. But we did have a customer come into the shop, and she said, "Do you have?" And Melinda said, "Yes, they're right over here," and led her to it. And
Oops.
right away, I'm like, "Oh shit." This woman is about to back out of the shop and run for her life. And I'm like, "Oh, you got to stop doing that to customers," right? We kind of downplayed it a little bit. But yeah, the look of panic in this
Fear.
girl's face, this woman's face. And then we had to reassure her that, okay, this happens sometimes, but let's actually point out that this was an inevitability because everybody who's come into the shop today has already asked the question that you're
So,
asked, and it's because we posted.
It's Christmas.
It is.
It's a
Yep.
frenzy of energy.
Yep.
I love customers. I love people. I love communicating with people. It's my jam. Retail is my jam. Put witchcraft stuff aside.
Yes.
I love retail.
Sure.
So in the frenzy of energy, because of who I am, I can pick up on those energies. And yeah, she was just there. It was easy.
We reassured her, that yes, Melinda is that amazing. But at the same time, it is very calculated how we came
It
to
is
this.
calculated, yes.
But I guess really the secret behind a lot of this stuff is that you, as we've had this discussion many times before, have a tendency to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else. So the funny thing is, we're the ones slowly catching up to the realization that you had 5 minutes ago. And the frustration that you find yourself in sometimes is how long it really takes some of us to catch up. And
Yes.
every once in a while, very, very rarely does it happen where my 10 steps, your 10 steps ahead is actually a different direction. And it's not very often when that happens, but it
My
can be a
kids-
very frustrating thing.
My
for
kids
you.
get so annoyed because I will answer their question before they've asked it.
Yep.
So they get so annoyed, and sometimes for me or for them, it's not fair because really kids just want to ask the question and talk, where mommy is 10 steps ahead, so she's already answering it. And yes, they get frustrated.
Yeah,
for sure.
I had a little fun with this the one day because, again, it was one of those clear moments. I don't claim this kind of skill or technique, but it was just one of those, like, I'm in the zone kind of things. And I think it was Georgia came down and said, and I'm like, yes, no, yes, yes. I'll be honest, I just took a stab. And she's like, what? I said, those are the answers to your questions. No. Okay, go ahead. First question, yes. Second question, no. Next question, yes, yes. I was locked out, but they were just like, I'm like, oh yeah, this must be what it feels like. We're gonna catch up here.
Yeah, catch up with the comments.
Do you feel that you have mediumship skills? I'm sure that's directed towards you. Medium is it's a good buzzword that's very trendy, very popular right now. One that we kind of avoid.
Do you see what he's doing?
What?
He's not allowing me to answer because he knows my thoughts and opinions on this.
If he were to get up in a soapbox, this would be one of them. Go ahead. It is about you. No, go for it. No.
I believe that words like medium, psychic, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentient, clair this, clair that, clair whatever, I believe they are all natural skills that any single person can learn. Could I and can I? So that was actually one of those moments with one of my best friends where it happened. I met with her dad. Unbeknownst, I had no idea of her dad or what he was or who he was or that he had passed away and how he passed away. And I kind of went into a little trance state and just talked to her about it and told her his thoughts on the situation. So that scared her, and we're still friends, but she doesn't come around if things are iffy in her life because she knows I can suss it out.
Which ironically you haven't done since.
I purposely don't do it because I don't.
Too much.
It's too much for her. It's too weird.
Yeah.
So mediumship qualities, I hate the word. I hate it. I do. Psychic, I can't stand those words. I'm just a normal person that is tapped into other aspects and energies and realms. No gift, no nothing. I can teach you guys to do it.
Do other people have latent skills and abilities in this area? Absolutely. Some people take to water like a fish and are capable of doing this. Uncle Graham actually commented that he learned earlier in this same message that he learned to swim by being thrown into the deep end. Some people are very good at that. My experience being thrown into the deep end, here I was thinking I was going to transition in swimming, so I had one water wing on and I almost drowned. It's not the same for everybody. Some of us have to actually work hard to learn and to do this stuff. That doesn't make it any less valued or skilled or anything.
It doesn't mean
like
they
that.
Can't do it though, just because they struggle with it at first. It's just they need a different way of learning it or being taught. And that's the stage I'm in my life, is teaching people. And we chuckled about this morning, being in the crone stage, that wisdom, that knowledge. I am more about teaching people the right ways.
Yes.
And
not our ways.
Not our ways. Just knowing that
way. Yeah.
anyone can do this.
Yeah.
Anyone. You're not special.
No.
I'm not special. I'm just more familiar with it. And you guys can be too.
Does that make it any less
valid?
Valuable, I would say, in somebody's life?
No.
No, you get to determine how important this is to you. You get to be the one that either actually just has the natural ability or the gift of something like that, or the one that worked your ass off to get there. Those are opportunities up to again, coming back to the word action. What are you going to do about it? Charmaine asks if we have any sites or resources that you recommend. There's a wonderful shop in Simcoe, Melinda's Enchanted Cottage. We have a website. It's pretty sad. Our Facebook page is full of information. But yeah, I don't know. We don't really outsource information too much, just because, I mean, we don't want to overwhelm people with our thoughts, our beliefs,
Charmaine, do you have a specific topic?
Genre of interest?
Because that would help me.
We can narrow it down.
Point you in the right direction.
Yep. Sharon talks about how her mom has similar abilities to you.
I think all moms do.
Yeah.
All moms do,
you know
right?
What? You spawned them. You should know them better than anybody else.
I'm just more in tune with it.
She knew things. Now, this was obviously going beyond new things, babies, etc., knowing when someone is in trouble. She doesn't have that. I would say you probably do, but you don't necessarily recognize where
Yes.
it's happening. This is a big one for me as well. I don't trust intuition. We actually had a conversation about this yesterday. You were asking about me using tarot as a way to communicate, to connect with people, to get messages and convey messages across, and how you don't necessarily use or need the cards to do that. You just do it.
I use them because it's comfortable for the person sitting across from me.
It's a safe.
It's a safe
method,
zone.
right?
Yes.
You can,
Yeah.
and you've done this before, and I've seen you do it. And they're like, "How did you know that?" And you're like, "Oh, right, because it's in the cards." Me, I actually use the cards as a affirmation. So for me, it's letting go of my ego and trusting that I know what I know, and the cards just confirm that. So it's kind of a 1-2 combination. But there again, through determination, through work, not necessarily doubt in myself, but just that reaffirming that what I know is accurate or true. Or in some cases, oh, buddy, you were so far off the mark, and just say what you now know and see. Sometimes
So-
that happens.
People are going to stop coming to the shop
Yeah. Yeah, don't do
because they don't want me to read them.
Yeah, we don't actually. We don't actually.
I don't do it
that.
against your will.
It was funny.
I don't do it.
We had a
I
lady
keep it
come
at
in,
bay.
and she was working all over me.
Oh.
You know, trying to impress and dazzle and intimidate and all sorts of stuff. Melinda wasn't in at the time, and I think I was texting her underneath the table. Oh, you got to come and meet this person. You'll be blessed. I don't remember exactly how I put it, but you were
Yeah.
out running some errands, and you came by, and this woman turned around with her many degrees of wisdom and knowledge, and did one of these big scans on Melinda, and it's like, and what do I feel off of you? And Melinda's like, you're about to feel my fist. Like, you got to back up a little bit. What's going on? And she's like, you're not even blocking me. And Melinda's like, should I be? Like, and it's funny. We have people come into the shop all the time, and what do you see around me? What do you feel? I'm like, nothing. I'm not looking.
Nothing. I'm not looking.
We're just having a wonderful dialogue or a wonderful discussion. What makes you guys think that we're turned on all the time to this? It's not.
It's about
not
control.
who we are or
No,
what we do.
That's part of it, though, right? I get people in who are empathic. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
But that's a easy one to tackle. They complain because they are,
Sure.
right? Because they're sucking in all this energy and emotions. And I'm like, dude, everyone does this. Like, everyone sucks in these energies. It's about control, which we've been talking about for the last 7 days. It's about keeping your personal power, controlling that power, not allowing other energies to seep in. It's a sore spot for me when people tell me they're empathic.
Again, because it's a buzzword, and it's
It's
not
a
to say
buzzword.
that they are or aren't, but we do.
Every person is.
Yeah.
Every person feels emotions to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are just better at controlling what they let in and what they put out.
Elizabeth says someone tried to astral plane into me and nearly ended up in the hospital. Was that because of your intention and power, or it was just an accidental connection of some sort? Was this, not to jump down that whole path of dream invasion, astral
Yes.
projection, was this an intended thing where they tried to connect into you, or was that an accidental trip, because that can happen as well? There's lots of examples and stories on how
yeah.
these can work.
And, well,
Yep. well,
Elizabeth
that-
responds, Charmaine just said just maybe some information for beginners. So books, sites, that kind of thing for beginners. Melinda's Enchanted Cottage.
I like, you know what, and I tell this to a
Yep.
lot of people, I love the Teen Witch book by
Yes.
Silver Ravenwolf. We get a lot of teens come in here that are liking the idea of this. We get a lot of moms and dads who follow in on their heels and go exactly what's going on in here. And what I really love about the Teen Witch book by Silver Ravenwolf is she dedicates one of the earliest chapters in the book to parents. So before you hand the book over to your kids that are exploring this, let me talk about what we're going to talk about and give you a little idea or a little reality on the perception of magic. And I'm a huge fan of Silver
Yep.
Ravenwolf's stuff because she really does.
She breaks it down
Yeah.
and simplifies it. So whether you're 15, 25, or in your 50s somewhere,
Yep.
the biggest issue surrounding this journey and this path is the terminology and the abundant amount of information involved with it. So you get turned off. You're on the path, you're off the path. You're on the path, you're off the path. You get turned off because you don't quite understand some of the terminology or the lingo that goes with it. Silver Ravenwolf just simplifies it, breaks it down, so you're not lost in transition.
Yep.
You study one thing at a time. And that is probably one of the biggest suggestions I can make, is study one thing at a time until you understand it. And that could be the difference between the word witch or the word Wicca. Know your terminology, know your definitions, and know who you are.
Yep, we have people come in and they assume because I'm male, they label me as a
warlock.
A warlock, and I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah. And not
Thanks
that
for
it's
trying.
It's not that it's
Yeah.
a bad
It's not a bad
thing.
thing, but
It's not a bad
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But that's just not who Jeremy is.
Elizabeth says they deliberately tried and she didn't know what was going on. So we've had experiences of our own with that.
Dream invasion.
It's very unpleasant when it happens, but
Yeah.
recognizing that you have the potential and skill for that is key here. Essentially, the truth and the single thing, if you can take anything away from this whole conversation today, is what are you going to do about it?
What is
This
your
moment.
next step? What
Where
is
are you going
your
to go?
action that you're going to take? We've given you guys some great resources and simple tools for what we consider magic to be, which is energy. What's your next step? What are you going to do with it?
I love Nike's logo for years has been just do it.
Yes.
And you couldn't really have said it any better. The most genius strategy for exemplifying the essence of what their sport is. Just do it. Just do it. It doesn't matter your skill set. It doesn't matter your reasons. It doesn't matter your excuses or beliefs. Just do it. Just do it. And we are doing our best to inspire, to instill confidence, to provide you with tools, techniques, and tips. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, this is my area of weakness right here, is just do it. I'm fortunate and blessed enough to have somebody who, when I hesitate,
I push him off the
doesn't
cliff.
hesitate to give me that nudge that I needed to take that leap, or not take that leap, but I have no choice but to develop my wings on the way down. So,
honestly, it's changed my life completely.
Mm-hmm.
This journey, this path, it's made me strong. I just recommend it. That's why I push. It's why I teach people.
Yeah.
You don't have to subscribe to witchcraft.
Nope.
There are areas that can help advance your life.
Yep. We love to hear when things are different for people. We love to hear, I tried it that way, but it didn't work,
Yeah.
and this is the way I did it. Prove me wrong, I guess, would be a great way of saying this. Try it my way. If you didn't like it, show me why it didn't work for you, but show me through action. Show me through results. Show me through you having done it. So let's all take this leap together and explore the privilege and freedom of being able to fly towards our dreams and our goals. Everything right now is all about locking down, sitting tight, but that doesn't mean that you can't explore, that you
Still
can't
grow.
Absolutely.
If you guys have questions, just ask. Throughout the feed. I mean, we're almost done.
Yep. Hour and a
Later
half
on,
almost today.
right? If you guys have questions,
Yep.
where to begin, what to do, where to start, anything, just ask. This is your one time free shot to ask me anything.
There you go. Yep. Melinda 101.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
I did okay. I didn't expose anything.
No,
we're good.
It's pretty cool. I'm
We're just
okay
us,
with that.
just us being who we are, and we're grateful that you guys joined us today. So, on that note, go and do, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Blessed be, guys. Love you.